No mai, haere mai, ke toi o Tāmaki, ko elinam toko ingoa. I have the privilege of introducing you to a stellar lineup of poets tonight. Tonight we have in order Ngā Hine Pūkōrero, Nathan Joe, Samuel Te Kani, Aiwa Pooamorn, Liam Jacobson, and Ngā Hine Pūkōrero again. So we have a Ngā Hine Pūkōrero Poets of Colour sandwich tonight. So less of me, more of them. In 2018, Ngā Hine Pūkōrero competed against 44 other high school teams to be crowned the Grand Slam champions of Word the Frontline. 2 months later, they won the Trans-Tasman Poetry Youth Slam in Melbourne. They were the first Australasian team to perform at Brave New Voices in Las Vegas, and they have performed here at Toi o Tāmaki for the opening of Toi Tū Toi Ora and as part of our Pride Festival program. We are so happy to have them here in residence till this Sunday, when they'll be running, this is my first plug, a $5 public workshop and performing one last time. $5 public workshop, 1 p.m. this coming Sunday. Yes. Okay, so let's be clapping and snapping for Arihia, Manaia, Terina and Matariki, Ngā Hine Pūkōrero.
Tēnā koutou, tuatahi rā me mihi kātika ki te Toi o Tāmaki mō te awhi o mātou ki te suhi rota hau i haha atu, ki te tūki konei mua i a koutou i te rānei. Me tuku mihi hoki ki a koe Ali mō tō manaki, mō tō poipoi a mātou i tō mātou nohonga ki konei, nā reira tēnā koe. Tēnā koutou hoki mō te haramai ki tēnei whakaturanga. Hi, my name is Arihia.
I'm Matariki. Ko Terina tōku ingoa. Kia ora, ko Manaia tōku ingoa.
And we are Ngā Hine Pūkōrero. At first, I just wanted to say thank you to the Auckland Art Gallery for having us here today, as well as the last couple of days. We've been doing a writing residency and running a few workshops, and it's been amazing. And they've looked after us really well, especially Ellie. Yeah, you're so special to us. Thank you so much for all that you do. Nā reira, let's get started. Uh-oh. The first poem? No, sure. Ko tōku reo,
Ko tō reo, ko te waka tuku iho, ka titi ka tū te Māori ora o ngā tapu, he rawa no roto te tiriti e.
No mai ki Aotearoa. Welcome to New Zealand, a country that has made its money on spilt blood. Māori land wasn't sold, it was stolen. Burial sites torn up to build runways for airports while airplanes catwalk along dead bodies with ease. Concrete dividing the people from the whenua. Listen closely, can you hear the bones cracking beneath their feet? We were not saved by civilization, we are still struggling to find where home is, to count how many white picket fences have been planted on unnamed corpses. In our language, the word whenua means both land and placenta. Some claim the land as their own, but we know the land claims us. We came from her, and we will return to her.
ko tōku reo,
Ko tō reo, ko te waka tuku iho, ka titi ka tū te Māori ora o ngā tapu, he rawa no roto te titi e. He rawa no roto te tiriti e.
Kia ora everyone. This next poem is one we haven't performed in ages, but it's so important to us as Māori, this being our land and sharing the same blood with our Pasifika family. This is a poem about the dawn raids. It's quite heavy. You may see us using our phones. Ignore that. We're a bit rusty, but yeah.
Also, there's a lot of references to 2019. So we're all gonna go back to 2019 right now. Yeah. In 1974, New Zealand police began raiding homes as part of the government's attempt to find and deport overstayers from islands like Samoa and Tonga. With random searches for identification, homes were stormed in the early hours of the morning. These were known as the dawn raids.
The islands of the Pacific Ocean emptied as families chased after the land of milk and honey.
New Zealand promised them work Europeans didn't want to do.
Factories overflowing with Pacific people.
With people who had forgotten the sound of the sea.
Concrete didn't feel the same as sand.
Churches built a community of overworked Pacific people. Exploitation is a white man's favourite pastime.
When palm trees started growing from the cracks in the pavement, raids on the homes of alleged overstayers began.
Police touched their skin before the sun did.
They shackled law-abiding citizens,
sending them back home on planes that didn't know the sky half as well as the people knew the ocean.
1974 New Zealand looks a lot like 2019 America. It looks like honey has lost its sweetness in the land of opportunity. The world watched
1921 America deport 1.8 million people.
The world watched
1955 America deport 1.3 million people.
The world is watching with an ICE stare as history repeats itself.
2019 looks like a bad dream.
Like resettlement is going to end generations of violence, as if genocide was never committed on American soil. We all have bloody histories hidden behind star-studded flags.
Even though 1974 New Zealand was 45 years ago,
still, today,
immigrants live in constant fear that their families will be
torn apart like visas. Human beings alive and innocent turned illegal aliens by the government. They only keep parts of a culture they can sell.
Making coconut bars for little girls'
hula party, eating at Taco Bell while a wall is being built on the Mexico border.
Cultural appropriation is so familiar to our economies, treating people like they're expendable, as if a person's race was a currency.
We all should have learned from this already.
That deportation is displacing the already displaced.
It is recolonizing a culture. That ripping out mother tongues on barbed wire borders means we have to build cultural orphanages just to fill our cities with people who are afraid of themselves. The dawn raids didn't have to happen.
We could have waited for the sun to rise. We could have let our Pacifica families stay
here at home,
America.
Future generations will inherit your guilt, and it will happen again until human beings are recognized as human beings. It will happen again.
The world has hidden its outrage somewhere beneath the roots of a tree,
letting yesterday's mistakes melt back into the folds of the earth.
America, we learnt about your past before we learnt about ours. We both share secrets that we've covered in dirt, diluted in blood. Both of our countries were founded by thieves and criminals and conmen who took the land, then made it their home. And here we are again, telling others they cannot live on land that isn't even ours. We're all still sleeping on expired eviction notices. Dawn is coming. Wake up. It's time for us to go home.
Thank you. I also forgot to mention that with spoken word, it's sort of like a conversation between the performers and the audience. So if you hear something that you like, you can give us some of these. Can everyone give me some clicks? Yeah, very nice. Or you could do something like, can I get a Ka pai, ka pai. And whatever you want, pretty much. Yeah. Okay. This next piece is one that is really important to us, and it's one of our first pieces from the 2018 with the Frontline Slam, and it still holds a lot of relevance and just really close to our hearts.
Trigger warnings. We talk about child abuse and losing babies. So if that is something you're uncomfortable with, feel free to step out. Yes.
Because she was barren, she daydreamed about children, and grasping a takawai, she composed a lullaby. He wāhine he whenua e ngā roa I te tangata. She was a music lover, a melodious metaphor she would press to her chest. As the feathers of her korowai fell, they floated, and she changed from being the property of her father to the property of her husband. He wāhine he ipo kua ngā roa ia. She played her role in Te Ao Māori like the men played the pukaia. Ka moe koutou rā. She was taught to link the past, the present, and the future. Ki wainga I te koroai. But her whare tangata was a meeting house with no manuhiri. O ure tarewa. Her reo was softer than the petals of her skin. It was frail and wilting, dying for a fire that won't spark in her kōpū. Moe maira. Her mind wanders more than her body ever has. Aku tō tarahai mata. She's a pūrerehua, and her freight string was never tied. We hear her song in the confines of our bedrooms, lulling us to sleep, the taste of metallic on her tongue as she sang. A takawai filled with tears for a child born dead, leaving a parent with a life sentence, convicted of murder before another life could be lost. She has jail bars forming in her womb as she sees her unborn child in the creases of her tear-stained face.
Why do Māori women have so many problems?
Why do you have so much to say? Do you understand what it's like to be told you are sacred because of a gift you didn't ask for? So your rights are stolen away from you like the babies that you're forced to produce. And if your machine is broken, well then so are you. Do you understand what it means to lose a child? To be cowered over their limp bodies? They're not dying because they want to. We're killing them. They're punching bags of fresh bruises to mark the passage of time, pock-marking them until their tiny hands no longer shake. And only death would liberate them from this cruelty they never deserve to face.
Moko.
Nia.
Hinekawa.
Te repo.
We'll do anything to keep them safe. If it means you'll stuff cotton wool down our esophagus, we'll choke until our begging is heard. If you paint our bodies to cover our pain, we'll wash our faces until our mascara runs red. Even if our wombs were made to hold children, we will not let the kids that could have been ours be murdered in living rooms behind closed curtains. Moe maira. The takawai began to slip through her hands. Moe maira. She was losing her grip. Moe maira. The takawai stopped breathing, and she crumbled like the earth beneath her feet.
Tēnā koutou. So that was our first half of performances. We'll give the mic back to Ellie so she can introduce the next set of poets. Ngā mihi.
Ngā Hine Pūkōrero. Amazing. Okay. So next up we have Nathan Joe, born and raised in I'm going to say this, Ōtautahi. Nathan Joe is a Chinese Kiwi performance poet and playwright, and the current 2020 National Slam Champion. Let's be clapping and snapping for Nathan.
Hi everyone. I'm I'm going to do 3 poems tonight. The first one sort of to my diaspora brothers and sisters out there. Here we go. My ancestors crossed oceans to be here, and all I have to show for it is this bubble tea. In the wreckage of my culture, in the wreckage of my mother leaving motherland, when the ships came to shore and smashed against the rocks, leaving language, art, great literature, ancestral homes and lineage far behind them, all that remains in me is a name I no longer use, a name twisted, unfamiliar. All that remains are memes of self-mockery. Look at how my parents have traumatized me, lol. Look at how bad my Chinese is, lol. Look at how bad I am at math, lol. Anime, lol. Model minority, lol. K-pop, lol. And I lolled, and I lolled, and I lolled, and I can barely hear myself thinking over the sound of this lolling laughter, this rolling yellow wave tumbling, yellow-white river rippling, self-deprecation turned self-decapitation. I can barely hear myself. Selfhood, self-harmed over the loud sipping of bubble tea, Korean barbecue or potluck, the clipping of buy 9 cups and get 1 free. I can barely remember the treaty amongst this ocean of white noise rippling, replicated and highlighted, made yellow, yellow, yellow. It's a strange paradox to leave something behind and also to wish to keep it with you. Is that hypocrisy or human nature? It's a strange paradox to live in a body that does not feel like yours. White people call it dissociation, I just call it being Asian. Is it problematic to say colonized cultures have the privilege? No, don't call it privilege. But is it wrong to say colonized cultures have more culture to pass down because they have fought for their survival, because they are fighting for their survival? Fight or flight, do or die. My toothless bite suckles on your Pākehā teat. The traveller, the immigrant, the diaspora, dispersing, who left willingly, dispersing, who consented to some degree of his or her own annihilation, dispersing, and dispersed of their own doing. The question isn't, where are you from? But why did you come here? Why did you come knowing what you would lose? What were you running from, and where are you going when there is nowhere left to go? Thank you. This next one's a bit weird. It's more like a monologue, but bear with me. Decolonize the body, we are all meat sacks. I've tried everything. I've tried bleaching, I've tried tanning, I've tried slimming and sculpting, I've made washboards of my abs, I have found myself a feeder and consumed till my waist size has exploded. I've stopped consuming carbs and only consumed saturated fats until my insides have imploded. I have taped my eyelids and folded them over. I have dyed my hair over and over, the roots now poisoned. I've smiled through adversity. I have shaved off bone, extended my lashes. I've lasered off moles. I've been mistaken and mistook for people I am not. Yet, I've been made an object without wanting it. I have made myself an object when I felt unwanted. This structure, this house, it squeaks, and its foundations are weak. I want to start over, from scratch. Scratch, scratch, scratch it away. Peel the paint, knock down the walls, pull apart the floorboards, invert me, twist me inside out, plunge your scalpel, your sickle, your hammer, your buzzsaw, cut through. And if you hit an obstacle, cut through, liquefy, dissolve, dismantle, deconstruct. And if you look at your work and see something you can recognize, go further. If you see the slightest symbol on my skin, in my form, carve it out, make it formless, incinerate the shape, twist the flesh. I've always been an exile in my own body, imprisoned. So take your tools and free me. Set this cage on fire, melt the bars, let me ooze out of myself. Can you do that? Redefine me, my purpose, make my body unfuckable. Make them avert their gaze. Language is basic. It cannot contain me. Swap word for word until language finds itself without friction. Lubricate language. Slide. My body, my thing, my vessel, my husk. It all sounds so wrong. These walls are upturned now. Lover, I will ask, do you love me? What will they say when they gaze on my new form, the shallow creature? You thought of me as other. Let me show you other. How? All the same anyway. Different variation of meat sack, different brand of flesh bag. Construction of racial categorization, the ontological, the phenomenological fails you. Before speech is sight. The eyes make the first judgment. Hate begins here. A judgment is already made before words have a chance to articulate. Why did Oedipus blind himself? Not because he fucked his mother. Not because he crawled back to the place of beginning, the only place of true belonging. Blinded himself because of truth. Truth is unbearable. Saw what he was fucking. Saw why he was fucking. Notion 1. You were born a formed thing and deformed through culture. Notion 2. You were born a half-formed thing and your growth and evolution stifled. Notion 3, you were born unformed and you are still fighting to form yourself. See? No, don't see. That's the answer. So pluck them out. Eyes gone, sight, vision, unsee, ungaze, unlook. Can't see past skin. Replace the post-racial imaginary with a new project. Post-racial blindness. Don't see anything at all. We failed to find new ways of seeing, so we must succeed in no ways of seeing. Body collapsing onto body. Clumsy creature dancing. Silhouette of me sliding onto silhouette of you. Fill silhouette up. The traces of which are sensory become sensory to taste, to touch, to hear, but do not gaze. Do not verbalize, just texture. Vibration moving against vibration. And when they ask me your name, I will say not name, but your volume, your mass. Thing, no, not thing, not object. Avoid objectification, subject, clinical. Strive for a scientific method of survival. Subject, 62 kg, subject, soft, taut, tight, subject, shape, loose, shape, rectangular, system, history. History inevitably repeats itself. Language is slippery. Lubricate it until it slips further. Language is wet, language is water. Dirty water, drink it. Dirty water, drown in it. Dirty water, choke, sputter. Onomatopoeic language expresses a physical structure. The sound sounds the word, the shape of the word evokes the sound, or vice versa. Chink sounds onomatopoeic. Definition, a narrow opening, a gap, a hole, a crack, a fissure. Fill me with chinks, fill me with incisions, fill me with openings. Open me up, chink me up. See, violent. Words are not passive, only as soft as the speaker. Neutral, flat words, I can think of none. Home evokes melancholic ambivalence. Love feels fraught. Cat inspires amusement. And if still language persists to be violent, take it out, cut the tongue, no tongue, stitch up the mouth, no mouth, do it. Language forms the mind, forget it. Think in abstraction pure. Once you cannot speak, you will forget language entirely. Thanks, everyone. One more. This one's more of a traditional slam poem, if we're into that. This was about the difficulties I had writing about things that weren't important last year. How to write a love poem in 2020. Entertain fantasies with strangers you've barely spoken to, stalk exes you're still not over, fan the flames of a crush by pouring gasoline all over them. Watch too many episodes of Love Island and tell yourself you're doing it ironically. Ignore the writers that have come before you. Ignore Shakespeare, ignore Whitman, ignore Neruda, ignore Rumi, ignore them and write with the pretense that you are saying something that no one else has ever said before. Delete your Tinder, delete your Grindr, delete your Bumble, delete all your dating apps. And tell yourself that was definitely the last time. Book a flight to Paris, city of love. Don't worry about coronavirus. Don't worry about carbon footprints. You're an artist. Find someone cute. Find someone easy. Woo them and then ghost them so hard they'll need an exorcist to get over you. Tell yourself that love is not political, that desire is never political. Forget to take out the recycling. Forget about veganism. Forget about shopping bags. Have a cheat day. You deserve it. Forget about endless bottles of water. Forget about oceans drowning in plastic. Forget about melting ice caps. That's just what ice does, baby. It melts. Tell yourself it's okay to watch Woody Allen films. Tell yourself that it's important to separate the art from the artist. Pass a homeless man on the way to work. Tell yourself that there's nothing you can do about it. Tell yourself that's not your problem. Learn to ignore him better every subsequent day. Don't write about Ahmaud Arbery, George Floyd, or Breonna Taylor. Pretend the porn you watch is ethical. Pretend the porn you watch isn't doing your brain any harm. After all, you're a very evolved specimen. You can tell the difference between fantasy and reality. Now spit in my mouth, you dirty slut. Just make sure to delete your history when you're done. Tell yourself that writing love poems is important work. Tell yourself what you do is an essential service. Tell yourself that you haven't learned to rail yet just because you're too busy. Forget to use a condom, but hey, Shakespeare, Whitman, Neruda, and Rumi probably didn't use condoms either. Embrace the fact that your parents are in a loveless relationship. It'll fill your own romances with that much more desperation and passion. Forget that the last words you spoke to your grandfather before he passed away were, "I'll see you soon." Ignore the emotional canyon that sits between your family because, like Wile E. Coyote chasing the roadrunner off the cliff, you will only fall if you look down. Ignore the fact that we should all be screaming, shouting, speaking in tongues and frothing at the mouth with rage because the world is a forest on fire and we're just standing by watching it burn. Don't write poems about climate change. Don't write poems about racism. Don't write poems about politics. Don't write poems about mental health. Don't write poems about rape culture. Don't write poems about pride. Don't write poems about issues. Don't write poems about your mother. Don't write poems about your father. Don't write poems about poems. Don't write, just don't. Thank you.
Nathan Joe. Woo! All right, next up we have Samuel Te Kani. Woo! Samuel Te Kani hails from Northland and is based now in Tāmaki Makaurau, where he spends his time writing critically on cinema, art, and occasionally erotic science fiction. Clapping and a tapping and a snapping for Samuel.
Is that even on? Oh yeah, it's definitely on. Hello, I'm Sam. I am primarily a writer, so I haven't done much of this performing stuff, but I feel like it's becoming a recent habit. Thank you, Nathan, for obviously having me in your recent event, Dirty Passports. That was a really good time. And thank you, Ali in Auckland Art Gallery, for letting me play in this space. I'm going to read two poems. One of them's a new thing, and another one is one that I did at the Dirty Passports event with Nathan. So here goes. This is called I Have No Skin. I have no skin. I don't speak a word of Māori except the platitudes white people say to get front row seats at the cultural awards. I have no skin. My ratio of anxiety smoking is 12 cigarettes per worry. I have no skin. I can feel the approach of cancer like staring down the barrel of a loaded gun, and so say all the statistics, the ones that prophesy a brown life being a much shorter straw than a white life. I have no skin. I think every nice straight boy secretly wants to fuck me. I have no skin. I'd fuck your man in a heartbeat because dipping into somebody else's life is easier than having my own. I have no skin. I wouldn't know my whakapapa if it fucked me in the ass. I have no skin. I'm more ashamed of 660 than I am of the domestic violence stats in this country. I have no skin. I wake up every morning disappointed I'm not a skinny white girl, yet I have no skin. There are other ethical, critical brown people besides Taika Waititi. I have no skin. They won't pay a brown boy a premium until he can speak fluent Te-Reo. I have no skin. Too brown for my mum's side, too faggy for my dad's side. I have no skin. The faculty of my high school wanted me to be head boy, but I didn't show up to class as much as I should have, and I was a smoker, so the best they could do was a brown gay prefect. Props for diversity. I have no skin. I never finished studying, but it's all right because a degree would have been too heavy to carry anyway. I have no skin. The lesson that lingers from childhood is fantasy relationships, which I have every which way with everyone. I think I'm Audrey Tautou in that French movie, I have no skin. If I didn't think of the city as a playground, I would have killed myself already. I have no skin. I wish I had somewhere to be in the mornings that I had to put a suit on for. I have no skin. I feel guilty about having abandoned my extended family in Northland, but there's nothing up there but flax and meth. I have no skin. I can't help envying and hating the rich at the same time. Do I really want reform, or would I be satisfied with a penthouse apartment? I have no skin. I can't really blame Grimes for breeding with Elon Musk. There's not much I wouldn't do for $1 million. I have no skin. I had nightmares about Judith Collins during the election because she looks like some sort of Brothers Grimm bridge troll. I bet she spends her leisure hours kidnapping brown babies and holding weary travellers hostage with loaded riddles. Summon her by saying so talofa 3 times in a mirror at night. I have no skin. I'm at the point where I'm about to make out my childhood was much more worse than it actually was just so I can get some subsidised therapy, though obviously that's a double bind because then I'll have to manoeuvre my own lie like a buried mine, and when the lie comes out I'll be forced to get inventive all over again. Am I a pathological liar? Was it a cry for help? Did I just want to be christened with a recognised disorder to give my socials a new angle? Depression just isn't exotic, and saying you have anxiety is admitting to IBS. I have no skin. If my writing career fails, I'm starting a cult, and yeah, it'll be a weird sex one. I have no skin. In high school I bullied the boy I wanted to lose my virginity to, and it got so bad that he cried in class and we had to have a mediated reconciliation, and I still feel guilty about it sometimes. But when we were together with that teacher and he was crying and I was made to apologise, I remember thinking it was the most intimate thing I'd ever experienced, and I was hard for at least half of it. I have no skin. I thought being 30 would magically transform me into a fully functioning adult, but I'm still angry and poor, and condoms are still a reluctant commitment. I have no skin. I'm jealous of all my friends who've spent a year in Berlin. I have no skin. When I finally did lose my virginity to someone who played McCavity in a local theatre production of Cats, I was naive about grooming, and as I lifted my leg up to let him in me, my big toenail was so long that it cut the guy's cheek open. I have no skin. My sister used to put bleaching agent on her skin, and in the early 2000s we thought nothing of it until recently when we started feeling rage at a climate which would make her do something like this without hesitation, as if it was the most natural and expected thing in the world. I have no skin. I refuse to sympathise with Paris Hilton. I have no skin. I once did a panel discussion about Waitangi Day where I was ambushed by 2 cultural consultants, and I don't want to begrudge any successful Māori person, but fuck your cultural consultancy and fuck your suggestion that the only way to combat colonial systems is to have more brown babies. That's called eugenics. Hitler was a huge fan. I have no skin. One year I stopped eating and bathing, and I walked around Whangarei looking and smelling like a Tibetan monk on a hunger strike, feeling more spiritually enlightened than all my peers, but really I was probably just in the thick of some hormone-induced psychosis, and it's the closest thing I've ever come to being a wellness-obsessed Ponsonby housewife with Botox cheeks and a clear aura. I have no skin. Auckland feels like an ever-diminishing circle of villages or an escape room where the walls are slowly closing in, but you have the keys for the exit in your hand the whole time, so it's like an endurance thing, and you want to make sure you stay in the room right up until the very last second, right before you potentially die, just in case something happens, something amazing happens, but ultimately you're probably just going to die. I have no skin. So that's it. That's it. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And then this next one I did at Dirty Passports, and people seem to like it. So if you were at Dirty Passports, I'll see you. Thank you for coming. It's called I Wanna Fuck. I want everyone to be fucking all the time. When I go to the supermarket and the cashier is hot, or the trolley boy has nice arms, or the busker outside has a nice face, I want everyone to stop what they're doing and fuck. When I go to the bank to get a new debit card because my life literally depends on it, and I've had a few drinks the night before, and I'm hungover and I'm horny, and there's a guy there in a fitting sweater and jeans that shows his ass off like 2 ripe apples, I want everybody to fuck. I want everyone to drop to the ground, and while they're rolling around like maggots on the ground, start taking off their clothes and merge with the person next to them until they're one big heaving sweating pile, until that pile is one single sweating heaving organism that grows bigger and bigger, moving out from the CBD into the suburbs where people are plagued with mortgages and vaginismus. When we, the new Homo Gestalt, arrive and we sweep our flesh wave across the tired citadels of Ponsonby and Remuera, every doctor, lawyer, and property investor will rejoice and thank us. They'll be oh so grateful that we have arrived to obliterate their silly little games with the evolutionary step of fucking for its own sake. They will have a fleeting moment of remorse that they wasted their time doing anything but fucking, and then in a flash of relief, we'll have subsumed them, taking them under like big, raw, meaty surf, crashing on sexually tired and fiscally indebted sand. I want everyone to be fucking all the time. When 2 guys out on a Saturday night in chinos and ill-fitting button shirts, presumably from the shore, get wasted and fight each other to impress their girlfriends, but also so they can secretly be intimate with another dude without the stigma, I want them to start fucking. At the lethal peak of a UFC or MMA fight between 2 ruggedly handsome lugheads with missing teeth and chromosomes, reared in Appalachia on a diet of bourbon and meth, I want their fists to curl back into the desperate embraces of 2 lovers. I want them to start fucking. I want everyone to start fucking. When you're in a job interview and it's not going so great and you think this guy wouldn't be so unimpressed by my resume if he knew that I had no gag reflex, follow that instinct and start fucking. Get on your knees and see what happens. When I'm at a gig and we're being crushed near the front and I suddenly realise the guy closest to me is a delectable little hard body with dick-sucking lips, I want everyone to start fucking. I want the crowd pretending to be blissfully liberated with the ceremony of live music to sober up and fuck. I want everyone to stop pretending they're more drunk than they are and fuck. I want every dealer in the place to pour out anything not conducive to a 12-hour fuck fest. Meth is obviously out the window, but cocaine and Molly are more than welcome. When the barista making my Americano with oat milk screws up and looks at me with earnest apology in his cold brown eyes, I want to fuck. When the doctor taking my bloods, mandatory for the renewal of my prep script, accidentally misses the vein and I feel woozy in his office and I swoon into his big sterile arms, I want to fuck. When the nurses arrive to see what all that clanging is about and they see me in doggy position on that lumpy doctor's bed getting pounded real good by the good doctor, I want them to start fucking too. Like a virus, like a cult, like a behavioural glitch that momentarily holds back all the streaming bullshit otherwise grabbing our attention, making us do things we don't want to do, by which I mean anything that isn't fucking. I want everyone to start fucking. When I'm at the supermarket, the self-serve, and I scan a $3.50 bunch of bananas and it reads as an $8.50 bunch of bananas, and I call the attendant over and I say, hey, this $3.50 bunch of bananas scanned as an $8.50 bunch of bananas, and they're like, are you sure? And I'm like, yeah, I'm sure, and they're like, seems fine to me, and I'm like, they're on special, and they're like, are you sure? And I'm like, check the produce aisle if you don't believe me, and they give me the benefit of the doubt, and they flash their little staff card and change the price from an $8.50 bunch of bananas to a $3.50 bunch of bananas. I want to fuck. When I'm eye-rolling a married couple, thank you so much. When I'm eye-rolling a married couple who are walking their dog through Western Park and it's shitting all over the place and they haven't bothered to bring those little plastic bags so they don't pick it up because Sharon and Dave couldn't possibly touch feces with their bare hands. He's an architect, for God's sakes, and she illustrates the educational children's books about puberty, and I'm thinking that's a schematic of their entire relationship. Sharon and Dave leaving a trail of shit everywhere, not even bothering to pick it up, even though I know nothing about them and that's probably not even their names. I want everyone to start fucking, specifically me, Sharon and Dave, under the watchful eye of their dog, who we can safely assume has some canine form of IBS. I never watched Glee, but I'm familiar with the concept of song and dance flash mobbing. I want the same, but instead of singing and dancing, we're milling around a public place, maybe a food court or the foyer of a cinema or a bowling alley, and there's between 10 and 20 of us, and we blend it in with the civilians looking totally unassuming, until someone gives a signal, we all just start fucking, and around us the actual civilians can either let themselves be swept up in what they can only assume is the new normal, or they can flee the scene like Amish teenagers on Rumspringer. Either way, everyone's going to start fucking. And that's it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Samuel Te Kani. You know, so I should have said at the beginning that spoken word can be emotional, it can be political, and there may just be a few swear words. Okay, next up, Aiwa Pooamorn. Aiwa is a Thai Chinese mama, poet, activist, theatre maker, and performer. She co-directed Have You Ever Been with an Asian Woman?, which won the Auckland Fringe Festival's Unfuck the World Award in 2020. Clapping and a snapping for Aiwa.
Hi, I'm Mama Aiwa. I'm Mama Aiwa. Fresh off the boat girl, I'm Mama Aiwa. Thai Chinese wife, I'm Mama Aiwa, active on Tinder. I'm Mama Aiwa, late for kindy. I'm Mama Aiwa, sit naughty corner. I'm Mama Aiwa, don't cook pad thai. I'm Mama Aiwa, water native tongue. I'm Mama Aiwa, DJ Sailor Moon porn. I'm Mama Aiwa, no knit dick. I'm Mama Aiwa, sacred yoni. I'm Mama Aiwa, bacon energy. I'm Mama Aiwa, hot pink bathroom. I'm Mama Aiwa, lime green business stew. I'm Mama Aiwa, unemployed daughter. I'm Mama Aiwa, smoke weed, drink wine. I'm Mama Aiwa, work 24/7. I'm Mama Aiwa, Japanese boombox. I'm Mama Aiwa, beautiful boxer. I'm Mama Aiwa, Muay Thai champion. I'm Mama Aiwa, Jorake Fat Hang. I'm Mama Aiwa, come play mahjong. I'm Mama Aiwa, breastfeed while I shit. I'm Mama Aiwa, iron my cheong sam. I'm Mama Aiwa, $2 lip gloss. I'm Mama Aiwa, party hard K-Road. I'm Mama Aiwa, tiger stripe stretch mark. I'm Mama Aiwa, fuck bio oil. I'm Mama Aiwa, skinny deep dark water. I'm Mama Aiwa, seaweed pubic hair. I'm Mama Aiwa, nude on ladies bay. I'm Mama Aiwa, tell white hubby shut up. I'm Mama Aiwa, no morning after pill. I'm Mama Aiwa, placenta in freezer. I'm Mama Aiwa, feed me mangoes. I'm Mama Aiwa, child run wild. I'm Mama Aiwa, follow me on Insta. I'm Mama Aiwa, washitama. Welcome to the Stay at Home Mothers Club. Be prepared to watch Thomas the Tank Engine on repeat. Pleasure yourself orgasm after orgasm once baby goes to sleep. And have erotic dreams narrated by Ringo Starr. I wait for my drunk white Kiwi boy to come home, watch Coronation Street together while we fuck on the cum-stained couch. Excitement is picking out the blinds at the crazy corner house, Lord of the Flies, children waving kitchen knives about, a white old man sitting on a porch, gripping his taser, yelling, come get it, N-word. I don't know how I ended up being a stay-at-home mother in West Auckland, suburbia. Why didn't you go on the pill every other woman in New Zealand does? Spare our Kiwi men the indignity of wearing condoms. Once in a while, I air out my dirty laundry poetry in the town square. Never mind, it might make me squat in the corner, drown me with their spit and cum. When a woman gets too powerful, she has to flee. Like Thailand's first female prime minister, Yingluck, she left her Louis Vuitton gumboot prints all over red buffalo rice fields. Opposition leader opposite calls her Ingo, dumb bitch, an evil woman worse than a whore. I wish they would serve wine at playgroup instead of tea. Like the good old days when no one judged drunk mothers. I dreamed I had an affair with a beautiful woman. My hubby says it's cool. He's had dreams of cheating on me too. When we have sex, I imagine I'm banging Thai female soap opera stars. Like Kun Champu Araya, in her pink tulle dress with tiny ruffles for days. Like bags and bags of blushing shrimp crackers. And I dream of going back to the old swampy neighborhood in Thailand where I grew up, munching on wild sugarcane, playing badminton over power lines with Amoy and Ati Noi, buying pungent prawn crackers from the food truck auntie. Her face framed by sweet lady fingers of bananas and round green eggplants my mother cooks in her gang thai blah, her fermented fish intestines curry so spicy I drown in monsoon floods, a torrent gushing out of my pussy. My mother asked me why I have to go away with her dirty farang, a white playboy, even though she is my dad's concubine. 可是世上只有妈妈好. I can never quite go back to Thailand the same person I was. My parents say I'm too wide to squeeze through the narrow soils, a maze of alleyways navigated by motorbike taxis, tangled up in my sexuality. I got politely kicked out of the Meet the Election Candidates event on account of my crying, swearing baby disrupting speeches, a whole crowded room of angry shh. Phil Twyford was there. He helped me get the red pram out of the tiny doorway. I couldn't quite find the right moment to make him apologize for scapegoating investors with Chinese-sounding names, snapping turtles, gobbling up houses. Hardworking Kiwis don't stand a chance against the yellow peril. Phil declined to apologize. He insists he's not racist. It's just the numbers talking. Fuck you, Phil. Fuck your lousy maths. My Pakeha father-in-law asked me, why are you so angry, Aiwa? You're not even Chinese. You were born in Thailand. You have a Thai passport. You're Thai. I'm as Thai as pad Thai noodles, invented to be the national dish by military dictator Pibun, when actually it's quite Chinese, all to create the myth of a homogeneous monoculture. Thailand, the land of smiles. Pledge allegiance to Chad, the Thai nation state, Satsana, the Buddhist religion, and Pra Mahakasat, the demigod king. Change your Facebook profile to black and white. Show your sincere sadness for the death of the rainmaker, stray dog-loving king who approved the massacre of students branded communists and enemies of Thainess. In Thammasat University, 6 October 1976, some hung from trees and bidden, others set afire as the crowd looks on, smiles on their faces. Female students raped, alive and dead by the police and military. The Thai nation does not mourn for them. In our collective amnesia, we are too busy admiring the hot young princess leading her 77-horse cavalry to enshrine the royal ashes of our father. He sleeps on a gilded sandalwood pyre, blessed with holy coconut water, awaiting to be carried off to Mount Meru, center of the Hindu-Buddhist universe, in a red gold 42-ton great victory chariot. While I, priestess, glide through Auckland Airport, a red pram to part sea of apsaras. Small breasts sway as white supremacists chant, "Go home!" I say, fuck yeah, I am.
And that was Iowa Pooamorn. Okay, next up, Liam Jacobson. Liam's one of our own. He's one of the gallery assistants here at the gallery, so this is an absolute pleasure to hear him. Liam is of Kāi Tahu and Ngāti Kahungunu descent. Their poems build dream homes under the underground for the ghosts of the grapevine to reveal the theatrics of noise and romance humdrum. Clapping and a snapping for Liam.
Hello, this one? Sweet. Hello, kia ora. I got something that was stuck in my teeth, out of my teeth, and I'm feeling good. I'm gonna do some poems. Feel free to dance. All right. Rain-veiled nature, kind through the face of the yawning rift, peace to the midnight ship that drifts the glitter veil, free the body fruiting at the teeth of the crystal river, make of its withered tongue a gift to the sea. The clouds are turning in at the eye of winter. Peace of mind to the flowers of risen dawn. Peace to the feeder of breath. Direct your will toward our lasting good. You know me as of the vine. I've treaded the nerves of your stomach. The stars are your scattered teeth. May the hidden faces of the wind breathe easy. Hold that light mind, my sweet other, come with me. Free to the foot of the living echo. Peace to the ghost of the grapevine. Peace to all things living. Calm the muddy eye. Free the dead. Free the light mind. Will brighten the throat of the stilted organ. Face that hangs unveiled between us. Keep alive the thought of you. I'm grateful to know you again. Thanks. Thank you. This is called Still Life of the Wind That Carries Me Home to Home as It Is Today. Catchy title. All right. Man, I got jokes, see. All right. High with Coltrane, lane with earth, watching from a square roof of formless life, my body in pixels spread like breath. Light as a river coming over my window through me, as a face like all the faces of no one in one, feeding a heavy mind by hand to the wind that carries me home to home, free at the root of the thousand things, beyond the white clone of Tāmaki, the high mist and noise of cell towers and AT hop cars, flatlining on the 18 to work, hung as a relic of industry, a pretty neon humming the high mist. I melt with my ghost as the day turns to its ashy underbelly, black as asphalt, under the foot traffic swinging backwards, the black wombs singing to the dead of night. Make room for the dead to breathe through your spilt like soup over me. And the eyes behind you, a cloud is stretching like branches rooted to the sky, which is light. Brown water blood walks my white, thick as mist, woven under and over the other side of my skin. The wind that carries me home to home lifts my watching sky up through its hazel. The tide is turbid, the wind is water, the earth is sky, the gates are fire. It's been a while. I look up and see her face in a cloud. She's singing, come forward if you're free to, and drink till you've known the black nights become dawn, and watch for a week the light spread like cards that show me my throat is tight inside the shadow of my fugue, is flying high at a red sky's heel. I'm climbing through the whale that is me to its shoulders, through the blue that both soothes and scorns. As the day turns, bright like the eyes behind you, minding the stars' hidden business in the city's neon. Here in the gut, creation is motion, is living, as the light growing dark, growing light. Again and around me the wind calls. We all dream the same place. It's been a while. Open my body, my love. We hang by our feet from the world's upper jaw. I remember the eyes of this wind that held me before my body did, that carries me home to home. Thanks. Woo. This one's called Don't Trust the Zeitgeist, Crime Keeps Rent Low. So commit crimes. Okay. Kintika still kicking till dawn at dawn, through all hours of early seagull cacaw. Born again in the 4 a.m., we've been here before. Washed up with our old airy bodies, for we broke up with the foregone and woke up to this new day, still clothed with a stove on. This morning's entrails roll up through the fog to the fore, over wave wrinkles that toast to ripe age and worn space. Ain't no mistakes in the stumble, and by the grace of night's gore, we reached a new day through the back door of a mirage of a kebab store. All rich habits and pocket posh broke. Wolves bury the Orphic navel of night and weather talk. Memories, protein soup spills canary yellow over the carcass, well worn by yesterblur. Ready to become all it wasn't in the lights and rhyme of hindsight. Whole damn snuffle gang out to get flung. Last coin of swine work spent on corner store Port Royal nectar. Ready since spaceman sticks. Born cut out from womb comfy den of ever. Head off in sandals and gumboots in a van with a sunroof to a cooler shade cove in the midst of the madness, to witness the joy of the living, from tomb comfy crib of ever to one shoulder lean, loiter and kick mud, and act a fool's gold grin you kiss kin with. It'll be a real wrench to leave and wake again, but we've been entrusted with a whole nother day to go, so get flung speeching, uncaged voice out to charge and carol scream, uncaged voice back out to charge and carol scream, halfway across the street for the man turns green, lit by the scuffle between dark and street lamp, riding across the wingspan of the city. Ain't no one slept a wink in weeks, eyes gold ringed, black over blush, victory over yesterblur's death, flowing through the floss of the streets for the rest of the week, the mad dreaming ghosts of that grand scheming host, betrothed to since birth and now the melding. Tonight, forever, the storm still. Rise, roof of the mouth, spit phlegm from the grill. Raised in intermission, alone in chorus at the waist of another grey skyscraper, until it's reclaimed by the oceans, the drains usher. We wet it with resin of coming times, the thundering tides with the thigh sweat and sap of someone else's afterward, laughing, even killed, pressed against the odd-footed kerfuffle, soapy, wishing wild body hull. Remembering you were pocket lint, spilt like snow, and before that sky, at each flake of the circuit, sure you were all you'd become. And so what of this day, the home on the wing, the delicate scum swaying, succumbing to nada we found, foul raised, toppled and rose-smitten, kin tickers still kicking through the mud of what reaches, and Moros laughs at the hubris. The more I think about it, the less I feel about it. I love everywhere I've hated the city from. Thank you. Oh my God. This is called Transmigration of the Quiet Body. My word is from the silence in you, your gold in the night. I'm home in the shade of your psalm, in green smoke, high as a star, mothering death. The sun is warm behind me, crawling through my scalp to my spine. The woman and the man of me, in the world between time, are dancing forever. Knowing's a horizon you whisper over a tongue far from your mouth. Your faces circle above us as birds calling for night to fall soft around your neck. I heard from you rain as falling stars that are watching dead returning. I sit with you, it's you alone who knows me by my old names. We are held inside each other, woven by hand. I hear you waiting where I'm blind, of knowing the circles are housed sand and walked it backwards into your blues. You're who I am alone. Thanks. All right. And last one that keeps changing and I haven't named. Cool. All right. Pleasure. Peace, everybody. Love you all. All right. Watching. Sorry. Watching with a face like fresh air, the hands you climbed out, pour into the night, child of a child of fog. With you the night is living, the skies with clayful blood. Remember our legs lit the street red. In those hours before light, I remember the signs dancing, arrows and ads. Tradie graph blue on the footpath, dreaming to neon grays the voice inside, the mist spilling through the veil. The night stretches over itself like the sea. I'm sat between me breathing, dreams of the city before me rise through the fog, time falling like red eyes for the street, shakes as you do tonight to a wind that passes me by. In its echo, I remember a tantric dream. You were there without a body, wishing free the still, to walk the floating monga, to walk the waves of hidden time, free like the air, thick-eyed with a private myth, climbing home drunk on it, chewing smoke and light of the moon, swinging the beat of water calm, still up as the birds call time to spiral away, as the early hours widen a hell of a night, where out loud I remember I am, held in the names that held me, rows and rows of faces woven like fog and light. The fog bites back, the air is wine, my twin is lucid. I find myself looking round, I find myself under my breath. This ain't me, it's mine, this ain't me, it's mine. In its echo, I remember a stone road moving as I did, each stone like a bright eye, each eye with its own gaze, born as the morning flowers, between the hands that held that world. I remember the day looked like I felt. I remember time like great Nana in browns and grays, blushing like dawn. There are dreams that split the concrete, tree roots spread like the long night. These eyes that were mine once, in the distance where all first happens, watch me wash the same old face, flood the sky like noise. The very thought of you in an urban violet against the shoulders of a red-eyed tower, watching yourself watch the world pretend to be you. I am what I've come from breathing. She talks like water. All I know I remember, She looks like me. I can't forget anymore. This ain't me, it's mine. I hope you know.
Thank you, Liam Jacobson. All right, and we have Ngā Hine Pūkōrero to come back onto the stage for the last time.
Kia ora anō, we're back.
Kia ora, kia ora.
Yeah. This next poem that we'll be doing is called Ko Matua. It was another poem that we've written in 2018. Yeah, that was a year. We just felt like making people cry. But yeah, so this one talks about... Terina can explain.
This poem is just a tribute to our grandparents who we never met, and just discusses our journey and how we feel about never being able to meet them.
Also, this poem has no screaming in it, I don't think, anyways, but we promise to give you some more screamo poems next feast. Also, we haven't performed this in a very, very, very long time, so I might just read it off my phone.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen a generation collapse? I haven't. I've only heard about it.
Through a phone call.
Followed by the smell of smoke.
The hika calling me home.
Getting to the marae sometime around dawn. Sitting by the fire in the kitchen, keeping my feet off the cold concrete floor.
Watching my mother hold back tears as the flowers fell off the pohutukawa tree.
The burial was not the hardest part. It was having to get a new funeral dress every few years.
My dad was in Christchurch. Though there was not an earthquake, his mind quaked and the city of his thoughts was sent into shock.
Have you ever heard of the ripple effect? With shaking knees we dropped our tributes into the grave. I couldn't stop thinking about Grandma in the kitchen, or Grandma laughing at the dinner table, seeing your face all over my home.
On book covers, on a mural in a whangare tunnel.
My mud-stained hands reaching out to yours. Sitting cross-legged on the church floor, making eye contact with the stained glass Jesus I've tried to talk to more than my own grandmother. I don't know what I believe in. Maybe praying will loosen the knot in my throat.
Did you know that whānau pani weren't allowed to eat? We were expected to sit by the tūpāpaku.
But death is like hospital food.
No matter how many times you've eaten it,
it never becomes any easier to swallow. Black coffees and life support machines. I seem to think about her illness more than her life. Breathing in grief and exhaling sorrow.
I hear your name when I read mine aloud.
Sometimes I wish my only memories of you weren't told by someone else.
It's a strange thing. Knowing someone without knowing someone.
Hearing different variations of the same story through someone else's memory.
I met my grandparents when I heard their eulogies. Dad was standing at the altar, compacting 82 years of life down into a few minutes. Have you seen the way a library can be forgotten in a cemetery?
Losing more knowledge than we have obtained.
My granddad's books were buried alongside him.
They're slowly turning into dust.
It's hard to imagine you were ever alive, when all I've seen of you is frozen and fading photographs. I just wish I could remember his voice.
Not a recording that I played to remind myself you were here once.
I wonder what you would think of me now,
trying to follow in your footsteps.
I've been to more tangi than weddings.
The fragrance of fake flowers and engraved headstones.
Black dresses and gumboots.
Mum, smoothing down my damp hair.
It only ever rains at funerals.
I don't know you,
But I vow that I'll never forget you. E kore rawa e waiata.
whakaria mai.
Tori peka ki au. Tia ho mai. Roto i te po. Hei kona au. Titiro atu ai. Ora mate. Hei au koe noho ai. We are at the end. We've got one more poem for you, and we do shout. So get ready. Do we want to use mics? Yes. Okay. All right. Yes. No.
Just having a quick chat.
Okay. So fun. Te reo Māori is the native language of our country. Passed down from generation to generation, over a single century it almost vanished from a law that suppressed the sound of it in schools. Kids were bruised by their teachers' knuckles for speaking it on the playground. This was their way of delivering us from our wayward state. They viewed our language as the head of a snake, deemed useless because it wasn't written on paper. It wasn't long until we were forced to speak.
In silence.
Our kaumātua.
No. Grandparents.
Lives were stained in blues and purples. English fingers slithering around their necks.
Subdued until their sentences were laced with shame.
Choking on blood and pride.
I can hear their screams.
I've never heard them speak. Nowadays, being fluent in Te Reo Māori is a privilege.
I've been told how lucky I am to have it as my first language.
To speak patterns into the air.
Over time, it has lost its ability to fly.
Language separated from tongue like root from tree.
So we talk karakeke.
No. Flax.
Into our cheeks.
Stick the fibers between our teeth.
Let them knit together in our breath.
For if I stay silent, my tupuna.
No.
Ancestors. Find a way to pry my jaws open.
My grandmother couldn't speak. She was beaten until her jaw was broken.
Use the pieces to raise our family. I speak teachings of broken bones because no one else in my family could. So tell us to be quiet
And we'll breathe life into ancestors we haven't met.
Tell stories of a past submerged in bleach. Legacy lives on in our voices. You can't take them away from us.
I hate forgetting.
Had to teach myself the prayers.
No.
Karakia. My parents never learned.
Had to overpronounce my words so the condensed history within each syllable was heard.
We
learnt not to forget, but to hide in our whispers.
Keeping our culture alive in the bottom of our lungs.
They drowned our ill in the depths of our stomachs.
Stitched it into our clothes.
So tell us to be quiet and know that we won't. This is our language. We are reclaiming it. We will speak it because our bodies weren't built for silence. We will speak it until every eardrum is bruised. We will speak it. For every person that was beaten into silence, we will speak it. For every person that was never taught, we will speak it. We will speak it. We will speak. Maku tēnei reo e kawe. Matoku arero ngā kupu o ku tupuna e whakatirana.
Kia maumahara ai tō rātou nei matora.
Kia kore rātou e koroheketia.
Ko wai hei koe ki te whānako i te pau tā whao mātou nei tūpuna.
Patu akiri, re re atoto.
Anei rau moko puna e tahuna te ahi.
Hei te pō, hei te ao. Anei rā ngā whenua i mōrehurehu i oku tūpuna. Ki ngā kiro te Pākehā. Tēnei tōku reo. E haruru ana i te whenua.
Thank you all for coming along, and we'd also like to thank our other poets. You guys are amazing. Nathan Joe, Sam Te Kani, Liam Jacobson, Aiwa. It's been an honour and a privilege to be able to be here and perform in front of you all. So, nei te mihi kia o koutou katoa. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā rā tātou katoa.
Kia ora.
He wai.
Thank you so much for coming along. We've got 2 more days of Ngā Hine Pūkōrero in residence. If you have tamariki, please bring them tomorrow to whānau drop-in at 2 p.m. They will be doing a wordplay workshop. And on Sunday, there's a $5, you might have heard this before, there's a $5 workshop for all ages at 1 p.m. and at 2 p.m. there is another gig where they will be performing a reflection on the exhibition that we've got at the moment, Toi Tū Toi Ora. Thank you so much. Pooamorn.